welcome to the final chapter of The Hidden Queen, the true story of Susan Pevensie. Chapter 10, Further Up and Further In. More. Everything was more. That was the first thing, the only thing, the thing that explained everything else. The grass beneath her feet was more grass than any grass she had ever stood on. Each blade distinct and alive in a way that made Susan feel every garden she'd ever tended seemed like a memory of a memory. The sky above her held blues that had no names, depths that simply continued forever. The air smelled of pine and salt and something else, something her body recognized before her mind even caught up. Something that bypassed language entirely and went straight to the deepest part of her. Home. After 59 years, home. She looked down at her hands. Smooth, young, strong, no stiffness, no careful movements. She straightened up and her body simply obeyed, effortlessly, the way it had when she was a girl. She wore deep blue, ocean blue, Narnian blue, and around her neck, cold and silver, and exactly as she remembered it, the moment her fingers touched it. Her horn. Susan pressed her palm flat against it, and everything came. Not struggling through fog, not fragments dissolving the moment she reached for them. Everything. Brilliant and complete and perfect and hers. Waiting patiently behind the wall she carried for 59 years, entirely undamaged, entirely whole. The wardrobe, the lamppost, the snow. Lucy's face in that first astonishing moment. Tumnus, the beavers, the thaw, the stone table cracking. 15 years as queen. The weight of the crown, Care Paravel, the sea from the castle walls at sunrise, taste of Narnian apples, the particular quality of light on winter mornings, and Aslan, his name, his face, his voice, all of it back and more beautiful than she remembered, because now she understood the full cost of it. What it had taken to stand here, what had been freely given so she could feel the grass beneath her feet and this horn beneath her hand. Susan! She spun round. Lucy was running across the meadow. Not the Lucy of the telephone call, not the Lucy of her teenage years, the real Lucy, the essential Lucy, young and radiant and blazing with a joy that seemed to light the entire landscape around her. Susan, you're here, finally. They collided, bumped into each other, both crying, both laughing, holding on with the full weight of 59 years behind the embrace. Lou! Susan pulled back and held her sister's face. I'm sorry, the phone call, the last thing I said. Stop. Lucy pressed her fingers gently against Susan's lips. He told us everything, the moment we arrived. All of it. What you did, what it cost, why it was only you. Tears streamed down Lucy's face. You didn't turn shallow. You never gave up. You forgot because you chose to forget. Because you loved Edmund more than you loved your own memory. Her voice broke. Susan, what you did, I don't have words. Oh, you would have done the same. I hope I would have been capable of it, Lucy said fiercely. I genuinely don't know if I would. Peter was waiting 20 feet away. He pulled her in without a word. Peter, who had never broken down, who had led them through battles and loss and the long golden years of the rain without ever showing the seams. Completely falling apart now. She held him back just as hard. "My brave girl," he said finally. "My extraordinary, impossible, brave girl. You held everything together by giving yourself away, and we never even knew. You couldn't have known." He pulled back. His eyes were red. He looked completely undignified and utterly magnificent. "But I know now. And Susan, thank you for all of us." Edmund stood apart, 20 feet away, unable to move towards her, tears running without any attempt to stop them. She walked to him quickly. "Edmund," she said softly, "I can't find the words." His voice was completely broken. "There aren't any. 59 years, Susan, 59 years, because of what I did. Because I walked out into that winter night and..." She closed the distance quickly now and pulled him into her. He went rigid for one moment. Then he crumbled entirely. When he finally pulled back, his face was wrecked and beautiful. And she loved him more than she had words for. "Why?" he managed. "Because you're my brother. Because the Edmund who went to the witch was never who you really were. And King Edmund the Just," she held his face in her hands, that is who you really are. And that man was worth 59 years. He was worth all of it." Edmund looked at her with wonder. And then he did something extraordinary she had never seen Edmund do. He knelt down right there in the meadow of the real Narnia. King Edmund the Just on his knees before his sister. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you, Susan." She pulled him back to his feet. "On your feet now," she said, part jokingly, and her voice was warm and fierce and full of love. "You're a king, and you know what? I'm told we have mountains to climb." "Well done." The voice moved through her like music, like every prayer she ever said without knowing she was saying it, answered all at once. She turned, and there he was, not a glimpse, not a dream dissolving before she could hold it, not a presence felt but not quite seen. Aslan, fully, completely, magnificently there, larger than she remembered, more golden, more terrible, and yes, more beautiful in equal measure, more real than anything else in the landscape around him. And there, everything in the landscape was more real than real anyway. He was looking at her with those eyes, the eyes she had been drawing in the shadows of every book for all those decades, without knowing whose eyes they were. The eyes that had watched over her through every church and temple and 3 a.m. wake up and every unanswered question. The eyes of someone who had never, not for one single moment of all those years, looked away. "Aslan," she breathed. She crossed the meadow without deciding to, fell to her knees without thinking about it. "My brave one," he said, "my faithful one, welcome home." "I looked for you everywhere," she said, "every church, every story, every book. I couldn't remember your name, but I never stopped." "I know." His voice was very gentle. "I was there in every search, in every prayer. Every time you wrote about children who saved worlds without knowing why. Every time gold light through a window made you cry. Every word you wrote was a prayer to me. Every year you waited was a year I held you. You were never, not for one single moment, alone." "I felt alone." "I know, and I am so sorry for that." "Don't be. It worked. Yes, he said quietly. It worked. And then, come, there is just one more thing. Just us. The grove, ancient trees, dappled golden light, the sound of water somewhere close. When they were alone, he turned to face her, and what she saw in his face surprised her. Not pride, not satisfaction, something that looked on that ancient, magnificent face remarkably like sorrow. The guilt, he said, the thought that made you silent at the beavers, the voice that said, let him go. She knew immediately. That was not your voice, Susan. She stopped breathing. What? I placed it there. I made you silent. I needed Edmund to go to the witch because the deep magic required it. And I needed you to carry the weight of it, to feel responsible, so that when I asked you to take his place, you would choose from the very deepest part of yourself. Not from duty, not from abstract love, but from guilt and love together, the most complete and unconditional choice a human soul can make. You placed it, she said slowly. Yes, I gave you a guilt that was never yours. I used your love and your conscience and your desperate need to make right what you believe you've done wrong. I used it to secure your sacrifice. His voice was very quiet now. And then I let you carry that false guilt for all those years. He stepped closer. And for that, for the manipulation, for the burden, for all the years of shame you carried that were actually mine to carry and not yours, I am asking your forgiveness. Aslan asking her forgiveness. The words hung in the golden air of the grove. The guilt was always mine, he said. I placed it. I should have borne it, not you. The silence at the beavers was my doing, not your failure. And the decades of believing yourself broken and shallow and less than, his voice broke just slightly, just enough, were never yours to carry. Something moved in Susan's chest, took flight, something enormous, something that had been lodged there since she was 14 years old and had become so familiar she stopped noticing its weight, moving upwards through decades of shame, through years of believing herself the broken one, the shallow one, the one who forgot, through every church she'd sat in feeling unworthy, every story she'd written feeling like a fraud, every morning she'd woken with a hole inside her and assumed it was her fault. All of it lifting. I'm not guilty, she said slowly, as if testing those words for the first time. No. I never was. No. The silence, it wasn't my failure. It was mine. And the 59 years were sacrifice, he said. Chosen in love, paid in faithfulness, honored beyond measure. He breathed on her, and his breath, it was like the first morning of the world. And now I take back what was always mine. You are free, Susan, innocent, beloved, free. The thing in her chest broke open. Not broke like damage. Aslan waited, let her weep until she was done. When she looked up, her face was clear, her eyes were steady, and something that hadn't been there in 59 years was back. Not just peace, innocence. When they emerged from the grove, her siblings were waiting. They saw it in her face the moment she appeared, the lightness, the freedom, the thing that had been missing. He took it back, she said simply. The guilt, it was never mine. He took it back. Lucy made a sound that had no words in any language. Edmund closed his eyes. His expression showed that this specific thing was the gift he had most hoped for and least dared to expect. Peter nodded once, slowly, the nod of someone who has hoped for something for a very long time and is only now allowing himself to believe it has happened. And Susan, Aslan said, and his voice carried warmth across the whole meadow. Susan, who was called the gentle, who was also called the brave, who was called the faithful, who is also now and forever the free. The crown settled on her head, not heavy, not cold, warm as the first morning, light as love, made not of metal, but of something that had no earthly name, the substance of sacrifice redeemed, and faithfulness rewarded, and innocence restored. Not her old crown, something better, something earned. She turned, and there he was, standing at the edge of the meadow, slightly apart from the great gathering of Narnians and ancient kings and wonderful creatures, looking a little overwhelmed. Brown hair, kind eyes, that solid, steady presence she would know anywhere, even there, even now. Robert, he looked up, and his face did the thing it always did when she came home and he heard the door and turned. Warm, unhurried, completely present. Susan. His voice was exactly as she remembered it. I wasn't sure you'd find me straight away. There's rather a lot going on. She crossed the meadow without deciding to, stopped a foot away, just looked at him. He hadn't really changed. Younger, brown hair falling across his forehead, the kind eyes that had first looked at her across a university TQ in 1949 and seen something worth knowing. You're here. Apparently, a small smile, the one she'd fallen in love with. He explained everything when I arrived, what you were carrying, what you gave up, what it cost you. His voice was steady, but his eyes were very bright. I always knew something had happened to you, something I couldn't reach. The whole. I called it your searching. I didn't understand it, but I loved it. I loved all of you, including the part I couldn't reach. He took her hands, warm, solid, real. Susan, his voice caught. I'm sorry I wasn't there when your family died, when you had to do it all alone. You taught me how to survive, she said. 4 years of being loved by you showed me it was possible to be held together. You held me together without knowing what you were doing or what you were holding. He looked at her for a long moment, then glanced behind her at Peter grinning, at Edmund wiping his eyes, at Lucy already moving towards them with her arms wide open. I think, Robert said, that I'm finally going to meet your family properly. They're going to love you, Susan said. You're the man who kept me standing when I didn't know what I was standing for. And then everyone was there at once. Lucy arriving like sunlight, Peter shaking Robert's hand and not letting go, Edmund, who had wept, who was done weeping now, who was every inch King Edmund the Just, looking Robert in the eyes and saying 2 words very quietly and very seriously. Thank you. Come, Aslan said, not loud, never loud, but carrying. They all turned. He stood at the foot of the mountains that climbed into light that didn't fade, the path before them gold, the sky above a blue that had no ceiling. Further up, he said, further in, there are joys to discover that haven't been named yet, and we have forever to discover them in. He began to climb, and Susan Pevensie, who'd been searching for 59 years, for something she couldn't name, who had carried guilt that was never hers, who had written prayers to someone she couldn't remember or name, who had loved faithfully in the dark without knowing she was being faithful, took Robert's hand with her left and Edmund's with her right, and followed. How do you describe forever? You can't. But this much is true. She had been lost, but never truly lost, because he always knew where she was. She had forgotten, but never truly forgotten, because he remembered her in every moment of every month of every year. She had borne guilt, but it was never hers, and now it was gone, taken back by the one who should always have carried it. And she was free. She had lost Robert, but Robert was here. She had lost her family, but her family was here. She had searched for all those years, and now she had found what she was searching for. And it was worth it every year. And in the real Narnia, where the mountains climb into light that never fades, and the joy expands with every step, and guilt is taken back, and innocence is restored, and faithful love is honored, and everything freely given returns, transformed and shining. Queen Susan, the brave, the faithful, the free, the loved, came home at last. Further up, further in, forever. And that brings us to the end of The Hidden Queen, the true story of Susan Pevensie. Although it's never really the end, is it? Thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed telling it. Thank you.